everyone, I'm super excited to be here with you today. It's been a while since I've posted a video and I apologize about that. It's been a really busy spring, but I was so excited when Paulina had asked me to guest for her watercolor blog hop for Pretty Pink Posh. And I've been watercoloring like crazy on my blog lately. I'm a bit obsessed. I find it so relaxing and I just love the results and I love blending and just taking my time and coloring. And I just love that it's more free than Copics and I'm just having a ton of fun with it. But for my video today, I really wanted to share something different with you that I haven't done before on my blog. So today we are going to do a watercolor resist with a blended background. And that's a mouthful, but we also are squeezing in some masking in there as well. So it'll be really fun. It's almost a one-layer card. I snuck in a little layer towards the end, but it's just a really fun card and I hope you'll enjoy the process. We are going to be using Distress inks today to do our watercoloring. There's so many different supplies out there now that you can do watercoloring with. I've just really been enjoying using the Distress inks. I have all the mini ink pads in their storage tins right on the corner of my studio table, so they're just easy to grab and use. The palette of all the colors is great. And there's just so many other techniques you can do with the Distress inks, so they make them really versatile and, worth the money. So we're going to use Distress inks and then Distress watercolor cardstock. I've been going through this as well like crazy. Pretty much every card I've been making in the past 6 months has this on it. I just think it's a great watercolor cardstock. There's so many different kinds out there. And it's kind of hit or miss, but I get great results with the Distress watercolor cardstock each time I use it, and I think the price point is great. I'm getting out the Winnie and Walter, the Big, the Bold, the Friends set. I'm a sucker for all of these stamp sets from Winnie and Walter. I just love that large script words, with all the different sets that you can get. So I'm going to use the word smiles from the Friends set, and I'm using my powder tool just to lay down a little bit of powder before I get to embossing. I love the powder tool. It works great when you're doing embossing so that you get a nice clean embossed image. I'm using the Versamark ink pad, going to ink that up really well and stamp it on the Distress color cardstock. Now I'm going to put the Ranger, I'm actually using Ranger Superfine Detail Gold embossing powder. I've had this forever. I don't know, some people say embossing powder has a shelf life. I haven't experienced that yet because all my embossing powders are years and years old, and they still work great. So I'm using that, and then we're going to heat emboss the word after I use my tidy tray. I'm working on top of the Ranger craft sheet, and I find when I'm heat embossing, it actually speeds up the embossing time. Granted, I'm fast forwarding the video for you a little bit, speeding it up for you, so you don't have to watch me emboss, but I do find the heat holds on that craft sheet and helps emboss things faster. So you can see the nice gold embossing that I have. And now we're going to use just a little bit of some masking paper. This is from Judikins. It's actually called Eclipse tape. Again, I've had this in my stash for a long time, back when I used to manage a store. I have a little bit of scrap left here. I tend to use every bit I can. I guess that's why I've had it for a while. Simon Says Stamp does have it in their shop. I checked before I posted this video, but it's great because I like that it's a matte paper. I'm just stamping the word smiles on it. You can use any ink, and I'm going to fussy cut it out, and that will be the mask that I will cover the gold embossed smiles. And now I just fussy cut out the mask so that I have it to use. I actually already had this mask cut, so I stopped. I just wanted to kind of give you guys an idea of what I did, but I'm going to use the mask that I previously fussy cut out, as you can see here. And you're just going to lay that right over the already stamped, and in this case, embossed image. So I'm laying that down. It's the back of this paper is really identical to like what's on the back of a Post-it note, but it's sticky all over instead of just that top tab. So I'm just adjusting it. I want to make sure it's covering it really well because I know the next image I'm going to stamp over it is pretty detailed. There's a lot of lines, so I want to make sure I'm covering the stamped image really well. So now I'm going to use the Winnie and Walter. This is their multi-faceted stamp. Now, when I first saw this stamp, right away I knew I needed it and I wanted to emboss it in white and watercolor over it. So that's how this card started in my head. As far as the rest of it, the masking and stuff was all just inspired by my mood and playing that day that I created the card. So I'm using the powder tool. I'm powdering the rest of the distress cardstock so that I can get another clear embossed image. I'm using my Versamark, inking it up really well, and then I'm going to stamp directly over the word smiles. Now, for the design of the card, I want it offside, so that's what I'm, doing and trying to figure out exactly where I wanted to line it up. And so now I am just dipping it in the white embossing powder. I use this a lot, so I have it in a tub. And this is the Hero Arts white embossing powder. I really love that embossing powder for white. It's my favorite. I have a little bit of areas that for one reason or another, there's a little bit of extra embossing powder clinging. And I'm just going to clean that up in a minute with a dry paintbrush. So I'm just cleaning up that edge that just, again, had a little bit of extra embossing powder. And now I'm heat embossing it. I sped this part up. There's no need for you to watch the enamel melt. And once it's all embossed, you can see the white embossed is in the background of the word smiles. So now we're going to start watercoloring. I just use a clear acrylic block to lay the ink down. I'm just smushing the Distress ink pad down. That was picked raspberries. I tend to use an acrylic block instead of my craft sheet because I like to be able to move it around. I found I've laid projects into the ink on my craft sheet, so I just like to be able to move it around. And now I'm just using a paintbrush with some clean water. And I'm just laying that down on the Distress watercolor paper wherever I want the picked raspberries to go. And then I go back in with a paintbrush, with the same paintbrush, but with picked raspberries on it. And I'm just dabbing it where I laid that water down. This paintbrush is very old. I've had it since college. So it's, nothing, it was fancy at the time, but it's been well loved. I just like a paintbrush that is a medium round with a soft bristles for this, just so that it's moving, the color around and the water around. In between colors, I like to heat set it a little bit just so that the colors won't blend too much. And so now I've sped up the video because, again, you don't need to watch it, in real time, but I laid down some more water where I wanted the spiced marmalade distress ink to go, and then I just laid the ink over where I had the water. Now I'm going in with a little bit of water and some distress ink just to add a little bit of a blend between the two colors. They didn't blend as much as I had wanted them to, so I'm just kind of force blending it myself. You have a little bit more control when you do it this way. Heat setting it before I move on to the next color. And for this, we're using the new Distress Twisted Citron color. This is a beautiful lime green. And with a clean brush with a lot of water, I'm going in and I'm just laying the water down wherever I want that twisted citron to be. And now I'm going in and laying the color down in the pools of water. Wanted it to be a bit more vibrant, so I'm just going in with a bit more distress ink. Heat setting. Cleaning my block to make room for more ink. And this is the new color from Tim Holtz too. It's the Mermaid Lagoon. Laying down the water and then dabbing in the color. I actually find dabbing lays the color down a lot better than actually trying to like paintbrush brush it, if that makes sense. And here I'm just trying to blend between the two colors a little bit, so I'm adding a little water and a little of the distress ink. Once I like the way it is, I heat set it. And the last color I'm using is Seedless Preserves. And you can just see how pretty the stamped image, the white stamped image, just pops. Continuing to dab the color, and then I didn't really like the edges too much. I was trying to even them out a little bit. And then heat setting to get it the way I like. The heat setting helps so that the ink won't move around as much. And so now that the background's done, I'm going to use this Pretty Pink Posh label set. I die cut one of the labels with distress watercolor paper. I just love the stitching around that. And I decided that I wanted to add a little bit of a sentiment to go with the word smiles to this. So I'm basically lining it up to see where I want it on the background. And I'm going to take a pencil and just kind of gently put little lines where the colors are switching, you know, from green to blue to purple. And I'm going to mimic the same colors on the background with the distress watercolors, or with the distress inks, excuse me. So I'm just refreshing my inks on my acrylic block, smooshing them, and I'm going to stamp out with archival jet black ink across the miles. So it will say smiles across the miles. These little words that come in the Winnie and Walter sets are so fun to be able to create so many different sentiment combinations. And so now I'm just doing the same exact thing as I did on the background, but just on this little label. And as I add the watercoloring, that stitching really shows up as well. Okay, so now that that's all set, you can see how it lines up with my watercoloring, my background. And then I decided I wanted a little bit more sprinkle of gold. So this label set from Pretty Pink Posh has these tiny little hearts, circles, and squares on the labels. So I actually want to get some of those gold embossed. I learned this the hard way one time. It's a lot easier to emboss a big area and then die cut from it instead of trying to emboss little areas. So I'm just taking a piece of scrap distress watercolor paper and pressing it into the Versamark ink. And I'm going to pour some gold embossing powder over that and emboss it. And then that's what I'm going to die cut the little hearts out from. So I'm quickly heat embossing that, and then off camera I'm going to die cut the little hearts. So you can see them here, super cute. And I just thought it would add a little bit of sprinkle of gold throughout the card. So now to assemble the card, I'm trimming the edges down a little bit. And I made a black card base out of the Ranger black cardstock. It's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm going to adhere my background to that. I just wanted a little black layer to, really make those colors pop. I'm using my ATG gun to add that layer, and then I'm going to use some pop dots to add the little stitched label. And then to add the tiny hearts, I'm using just a little dab of glossy accents and the quick stick tool. You could also use multi-matte medium if you would like. I usually have the glossy accents more handy. And then I'm just going to add 3 more kind of going up the card. This quick stick tool really makes it great to be able to, place little sequins or little pieces on your card. And that is it. So we have a watercolor resist with a blended background, and then we also did some masking in there. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned some new techniques, and if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. I have listed the supplies that I use below in the description of the video, and as always, you can find me at shirkus.com, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the Pretty Pink Posh watercolor blog hop. Have a great day!